This is Short and Sweet, a series of video interviews by Tracy Metz and Sanne van der Beek with urban thinkers of our time. We're here today at the Urban Transformation Conference in Rotterdam, and I'm talking with Larry Beasley, the former chief planner of the Canadian city of Vancouver, now a professor at the University of British Columbia. And he is here at the conference to talk about urban transformation.
Yes.
Perhaps you could begin by telling us how you helped transform the city of Vancouver.
Well, I led the process for about 15 years when we were rethinking, redreaming our city, deciding that instead of being a city like most North American cities with very little happening in the core and most people living in the suburbs, that we would bring people back. We called it our Living First strategy. We changed everything about the city, and then over a period of 15 years or so, we saw the repopulation of the city, and we saw what could happen as a result of people coming back, that the economy changed, the culture changed, the day-to-day life changed, the visual side of the city changed, all for the better, making our city for the first time probably what I would call a genuine city, a complete city.
And Vancouver was one of the first cities to discover what is now called walkable urbanism. We all know the donut model of North American cities, as you said, empty in the middle and all the activity is around. How did you make the center of Vancouver livable again? People want to live there, they want to work there. How did you do it?
Well, we did a few things. First is that we thought about the public realm a different way. Instead of emphasizing automobile movement, we said let's start to emphasize the active modes of transportation: walking, cycling, skating. Let's recreate the urban environment. No longer let so much of it be determined by the needs of the car. So we withdrew. We're actually removing auto infrastructure in the city and replacing that then with people, places, people infrastructure. And then the second thing we did is we had to reinvent the buildings of the city. Buildings were not really suitable for most types of residents. They were suitable for a few empty nesters or some young singles, but they weren't really suitable for families with children. Then we had to bring back the entire infrastructure for living, and we created that around a neighborhood concept. We said that every area should begin to have all the services it needs, as well as be a scale that is easily walkable, and also a scale where even at very high density, very high rise, people have many places to get to know one another, because the real community is not in the buildings or in the public space. It's when people connect with other people, and they start helping other people, they start seeing other people, they start falling in love with other people. All those great things happen that makes the city something you want to stay in. That was our key. We wanted to create something that you would decide to stay in all of your life.
And you just recently did a project in Texas together with Professor Alex Krieger from Harvard about what you said was taming a freeway. What a wonderful way of putting it.
Well, we had an unusual opportunity. There had been a proposal through an extraordinary park that's being developed called the Trinity River Park in Dallas, Texas, where a road had grown technically just over the years as it was designed from what might have been a good road into a full-fledged limited access 8-lane freeway with all kind of flyovers and everything. And the people weren't really aware of that. But when they became aware of that, they became very upset. So we brought together a group of urbanists and included the great Alex Krieger from Harvard and many other parts of projects around the world, along with Alan Jacobs, the great designer of streets, Elizabeth McDonald, Jeff Tumlin, who's also a great very postmodernist transportation planner, and other people, ecologists, landscape architects. And we said, let's redesign this. Let's make the park our client. Not cars, not the movement of people, the park. And so we redesigned. We included a road because the park needed a road. We included, though, access ways to get into the park, to stop, to enjoy the park. We included an extraordinary ecological landscape strategy. In other words, we redefine this as a vehicle through which you could realize more innovative things with the park. And that means for people.
And all of this in Texas, of all places.
All of this in Dallas, Texas, yeah. And you know, the nice thing about the Texans is that when they decide they want to do something, they go all the way. This was funded by private individuals, not the government. It brought together such interesting people, including a lot of interesting local people, to, you know, mix and match all of our ideas together into something that was so much better. And when we presented it, all the skeptics started, you know, this is the same old thing, and by about 10 minutes in, all of the social media was talking different things. The tweets were different, you know, and all that. And people were saying this is a better way to develop this for our city and for our park.
And all this knowledge and experience has come together in your new book.
Yes, it's called Eco-Design for Cities and Suburbs, where Jonathan Barnett, my co-author from the University of Pennsylvania, he and I are trying to merge the concepts of ecology and environmental responsibility with the concepts of new urbanism and great urban placemaking. How to build streets that work better for people, but also how to build streets that begin to create ecological zones and that start to connect different green spaces, things like that. And we also had another rule for our book, which was we only used examples that were already built. So it wasn't theoretical. It is theoretical in part, but we said no. This is for the practitioner. This is for people who are out there facing their city council every day. And they've got to have ideas, and they can't just say, I've got a great idea. They've got to be able to say, and so-and-so it was done, and here it was done, and there it was done. So we use great examples from all over the world, saying really, these are isolated examples. If we can bring those together as a new kind of practice of urbanism, then not only would we find a way to reconcile cities with their natural environment, but also with human beings. You know, the great irony is that as we become more urban, and we are now more than 50% of all human beings are urban, our cities are less compatible with the natural environment, which sustains us than ever before, and our cities are hated more than they've ever been in the history of the world. So we know that we have to transform that very contradiction, which is what we try to do in our book.
But people want to come back to cities. Cities are becoming more and more popular.
Cities are becoming more and more popular in some places. Cities are very unpopular in other places. People are going to cities feeling it's almost like a sacrifice from their traditional lifestyles and all that. When you go to the city, regardless of whether you're in the first world or in the developing world, we believe that you should find a new experience that is different but has its own fulfillment, rather than feel that you have given up a lot to be there. Even in our most progressive cities, a lot of our citizens don't buy in, which is why America is still a suburban nation. 70% of Americans are still living in what you might call less than complete holistic cities, because the city, as traditionally defined, is not fulfilling people. We have a concept, we call it experiential planning, where we have to start going back to plan the city to give you an experience that is in your heart and that stays in your memory. And that's really what builds your love, your respect, your commitment, your dedication to the city. And then you pass that on to your children.
Larry Beasley on his concept of urban transformation for Short and Sweet.